Join us on an interesting visual journey through Assam. This almond-shaped alluvial valley, nestling amidst high hills, is Assam, a beautiful land yet to be explored. The archaeological heritage of this eastern state of India dates back to the prehistoric period. Its unique geographical position is also manifested in its heritage. Inhabited predominantly by the Tibeto-Burman and the Mongoloid groups, Assam witnessed the migration of the Aryans as early as the middle of the first millennium BC. The region's proximity to the Indo-Gangetic plain resulted in strong influences from central and eastern India. A hillock called Sri Surya Pahar, south of Brahmaputra, which falls under the Gwalpara district, stand as a testimony to this. There is also evidence of a stream having flown close by in the remote past. The Surya Pahar site has several monolithic votive stupas of great antiquity dating back to the 1st century BC. Two of these stupas are reminiscent of the Harmika or Chhatra design representing Hinayana, an early phase of Buddhism. Besides Buddhist influences, traces of Jainism is also seen. The two cave figures of Adinath and Rasabanath on top of another hill are the only sculptures of Jain Tirthankaras found in Assam. An one-line inscription of Nagara script dating back to the 8th century AD is found inside the cave. At the site, nearby a stream, two panels of rock-cut figures are found. Figures of Vishnu, Shiva and Harihara are found around Surya Pahar. But the tour de force of this panel perhaps is the 12-armed Buddha Avalokiteshvara. This is a rare stone medallion, probably displaced from the inner sikhara of a Nagara-type stone temple. This medallion has a circular parikrama in which Brahma is depicted with his 12 sons surrounding him. These figures, dating back to the 8th century AD, have been identified as Kashyapa with the Dwadasa Adityas by some scholars. Remains of a brick-built temple plan and stone temple plinth, remainders of a hoary past, have been excavated by the Archaeological Survey of India. Buddhist influence is also evident in terracotta panels depicting the Buddha at Paglateg. 67 pieces of terracotta fragments with the Buddha in the Bhumi Sparsha Mudra datable to 7th to 8th century AD, have been discovered by the Directorate of Archaeology, Assam. The ornamentation of the stupa was further enhanced by the figures of Bharavahaka and other decorative art forms. The Jain, Hindu and Buddhist relics at these sites take us back to a golden era when various faiths existed peacefully. The Paglatig Shiva temple site is found with stone relics of a temple. The site is found with evidence of archaeological heritage and has a beautiful panoramic view. Existence of two caverns facing the river is also found here. Mornoi in Gwalpara is another site on the river bank. Brick architectural remains, stone sculpture and Shivalinga is found here. This linga is datable to the 8th century AD. At Mornoi, lingering traits of making pottery is found continued. One can find the traditional handmade pottery culture. We now take you to Kamakhya, which is located on Nilachal Hills in the city of Guwahati. This is the old stone pathway believed to be built by Narakasur, which leads to the main temple atop the hill. Kamakhya is the most important Shakti Pitha and a seat of Tantra, dating back to the times when Shiva roamed the world in a frenzy, carrying the corpse of Sati. Kamakhya must have bustled with artistic activity once upon a time, and sculptures lying in the temple premises and carved on the bara are indicative of this. The series of temple structures on the body of the temple and the scroll patterns draw our attention. Some scroll designs belonging to the original stone temple and bearing the stamp of classical art tradition have been found on the ground level of the temple. These must have been parts of a very ancient temple re-employed in the present temple, reconstructed at a later period.
Kamakhya can be said as the oldest cultural museum of Northeast India. Though the temple was built by the coast king Naranarayana in 1565 AD, the sculptures and carvings lying in and around this temple show that the cultural phase started from about 7th century AD. The different carvings can be divided into several parts. One group definitely go to the Gupta period, and for the others that continued through 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th century up to the 12th century AD. Beyond 12th century AD, the later medieval period came when all the temples were in ruins. During the later medieval period, the concept of Dasa Mahavidya came. In the Chandi Tantra, it is written that Kali Tara Mahavidya Soroshi Bhuvaneshwari Bhairavi Sinnamasta Savidya Damavati Tatha Bhagale Siddha Vidya Tha Matange Kamalatmika Eto Dasa Mahavidya Siddha Vidya Pravartita. Here we find 10 aspects of the Devi Kamakhya. But all these aspects of Kamakhya were not there during the early period. But even then, from the sculptural part, we can say that certain temples were there where Devi was worshipped. In addition to Devi, there were Shiva temples. We find here now 5 Shiva temples, at least some of them were in existence in the earlier period. So Kamakhya, from the legendary point of view, we can go to the earliest period of our history of Assam. From archaeological point of view, we have got a lot of things to be explored and analyzed and researched.
The sculptures of Kamakhya stand as a tribute to the brilliance and the technical skill of our ancient sculptors who have enshrined the living ideals of physical love in cold, lifeless stones. Several smaller structures ranging from the 8th to the 17th century have been found scattered around the Kamakhya temple. In the northeastern slope of Kamakhya Hill or Nilachal Hill lies the Umachal rock of King Surendra Burman. The inscription records the construction of a cave temple for the illustrious Lord Balabhadra constructed by Maharaja Dhiraja Sri Surendra Burman. The inscription is datable to 5th century AD. We shall now transport you to another site about 25 kilometers from Guwahati near Baihattacharyali, presently known as Madan Kamdev temple site. At an earlier period, this was the sacred Haragauri Kameshwara dedicated to Uma Maheshwara. A breathtaking sculpture of Uma and Maheshwara in the Alingana posture, embracing each other, is found in the Garbhagriha. Though in ruins today, the enormous stone sculptures, architectural blocks, Angashekharas and forms of gods, goddesses and animals testify to a glorious past. The amorous human figures and other magnificent ruins indicated that the site must have been an important temple in the past. The ravages of time have diminished the glory of this temple. This is a Pancharatna temple of the Orissan temple plan. Sculptures of Vaikuntha Bhairavi, Gayavyala, Gana, Indra and Kirtimukhas are found here. The ceiling slab is beautifully carved with three-tier Vishwapadma. The ruins seen here belong to the 11th to 12th century AD. A collection of relics picked up from this area has been put on display for systematic study. Surya, Indra, Vaikuntha Vaishnavi and many more figures are kept in the museum. The sculptures date back to the 11th and 12th century AD. Systematic excavation conducted at the Ambari Archaeological Site at Guwahati has revealed foundations of brick structures, pathways, and floors laid with bricks, indicating human settlement at least from 8th century AD. Sculptures of Surya, Yamuna, Ganga, Dasabhuja Durga, Nataraja and Muni dated between 12th and 13th century AD have been found here. But the most exquisite of the sculptures found in Assam is the terracotta female torso and a figure belonging to the 9th or 10th century AD. The sculptures excavated from the Ambari excavation site are all steel-carved figures pointed upwards and endowed with kirtimukhas. The Dasabhuja Nataraja is an imposing figure and is the largest in the country. Besides these are several small Shivalinga and other terracotta objects found in Ambari. The rock-cut Ganesha figures at Pandunath on the bank of Brahmaputra is another group of sculptures. These belong to the 11th century AD. The Dirgheshwari temple site is located in North Guwahati. Facing the river Brahmaputra, this archaeological site is remarkable for its sculptures. Of all the rock-cut figures, the figure of Ganesha at Dirgheshwari is found to be the largest in the region. An hour's pleasant drive from Guwahati and we arrive at yet another ancient and archaeological site, Hajo. The ancient Highgrave temple at this site was built by the Koch king Raghudeva Narayana and can be dated back to the 16th century AD. This is built of stone and has several shrines and a pillared hall.
Hajo may be said as the Triveni Sangam of three major faiths of India, that is Hindu, Buddha and Islam. So far as the Hindu shrines are concerned, the Hayagreva Madhava temple is the earliest. From certain sculptures and carvings we can say that those resemble the Kailasa temple of Ellora of 8th century AD, and from that context we can say that the original temple was built in about 8th and 9th century AD. Although the present structure which is standing now in the Manikuta hill is rebuilt by the Kosha king Raghudeva in 1583. The other temples such as Kedar, Kamaleshwar, Durga, Ganesh, etc., those also have their origin from about 11th, 12th century, but the present structures were built in the late medieval period by the Ahom kings. The Hayagreva Madhava temple enshrines inside it an image which is known as Hayagreva Madhava image. But the Buddhist people as per a tradition, take it as the sculpture of Mahamuni or Gautama Buddha. The Parinirvana of Mahamuni, this theory cannot be accepted on the plea that we have got direct evidences of the death of Buddha Deva in Kushinagar, bordering Nepal and India. But the scholars and the historians are of the view that one Padmasambhava, one Buddhist preacher, he died here and his monument was here. That stupa was subsequently taken by the Buddhist followers of Nepal, Bhutan and Tibet as the burial mound of Buddha. The Buddhist people of Bhutan and Nepal still consider this temple as the shrine of Buddhist origin, and they used to come over here every year.
The Kedarnath is also a stone temple enshrining a Shivalinga in its Garbhagriha. The temple with its stone fragments belong to the medieval period of Rajeswara Singha. On the northern bank of the mighty Brahmaputra is Tezpur, a region almost full of stone sculptural relics and architectural blocks. We are now in the Daw Parbatia Bamuni Pahar site in the heart of Tezpur in northern Assam. This imposing carved stone temple door frame at Daw Parbatia depicts the classical art form of the Gupta period. An elegant female deity with a garland in her hand, the appearance of the life-giving rivers, the Ganga and the Yamuna, a mythical half-man and half-bird deity are some of the masterpieces we see on this door frame. Similar forms can be found only in the 5th and 6th century AD sculptures of Pataliputra and Benares. Stone architectural remains and sculptural blocks lying scattered at Bamuni Hills in Tezpur indicate the existence of a group of 7 shrines at this site. 6 of these are in a large enclosure, 2 in the center and 4 in each of the corners. The 7th stands to the east. The pavements within the Garbhagrahas in the central shrines seem to have withstood the ravages of time. At Kol Park in Tezpur, sculptural and architectural remains and stone blocks were unearthed during 1906. Some of the blocks have been elaborately displayed in the park. A few structures have also been brought for display from Bamuni Hills. One can find ornamented shaft, pillars, designs and religious carvings. Stylistically, these are datable to the 10th and 11th century AD. In the archaeological sites in and around Daboka in Nagaon district, lingering traits of the classical tradition are noticeable, as in the sculptures at Devasthana, Naunat. These are slender and sensuous. The Naunat terracotta sculptures are a vivid expression of social and religious life. The dress, ornaments, hairdress and other such details found in these give vital clues to the cultural and ethnic background of this region during the 7th and 8th centuries. Akashiganga, yet another important site located at a distance of 7 km from Doboka, is a scenic spot. The rocky terrain and splendorous waterfall make this a beautiful place. The sculptures, door lintel, pillar and window pedestals are gigantic and impressive. Adjoining the Numaligarh tea estate, extensive ruins of a Shiva temple is found. The ruins are sandstone and are elegantly carved. They belong to the 10th century AD. These sites stand witness to the glory and antiquity of Assam, which is a highway to trade of both goods and ideas among India, Burma and southwest China.